Hello, I'm Ariam, and this is my magical readathon TBR, what I want to read for the month for the autumn equinox of 2025. So if you don't know, the magical readathon, or Aurelium, is a readathon that takes place the main part takes place every September and April. Wait one moment, I'm going to go get some water. Alright, so if you don't know the magic Readathon, basically you make up this character and they go to school and there are university and there are like all these different callings, basically the degree they get, and you need to read books for the classes they take. So in the autumn equinox that takes place in September, which is still technically summer, but it used to be in August, and also I know a lot of people start school. Actually, I don't know when Americans start school. And Israel probably starts university in like late October to early November after the holidays. Anyways, so in the autumn equinox, the classes you take are divided into like parts. So you might have to do, I forgot what they're named by letters, but you might have to do level 1 where you only read one book, but you might have to do level 3 where you read 3 books, and there are only levels 1, 2, or 3. So I have two characters, Ori and Estella, and Ori is learning to be Beastmaster. For both of them, this is their last semester, and Estella is learning to be a healer and an archmage. So, because I end up having so many classes, I don't ever plan to actually finish it only within September. I always know that I'm going to go into, at the very least, the next month, something the next 2 months. But let's get started with what I'm planning to read. Obviously, this might change, etc., but whatever. And I'm going to do it a little bit differently. I am going to go by classes instead of by character. So I'll tell you, because I have a lot of the classes overlap. So the first class I have for both of them is alchemy. So Ori has to do level 1 for this, and Estella has to do level 3. So for level 1 prompt, it is to have a sun on the cover. So I'm planning to read, for Estella, The Mimicking of Known Successes by Malka Older, and for Ori, The Search Part 1 by Jean Lewin Young. So The Mimicking of Known Successes is a sci-fi murder mystery that takes place on Jupiter. And on the cover, there's like a little tiny solar system, and someone said I could probably count the circle in the middle as the sun, so I'm taking it. And I've heard very good things about Malka Older and this book, and it does say it's like Sherlock Holmesy, so I'm very, very excited about that because you know I love Sherlock Holmes. And Malka Older is obviously a Jewish name, so I hope there's going to be some Jewishness in there. Then The Search Part 1 is a continuation series to the TV series Avatar The Last Airbender. So, but it's a 3-part comic. So to say it simply, in Avatar The Last Airbender, there is a character whose mom... Why is the garbage over here? Like, it's not pleasant for you to see that. Let's move it. Thank you. Whose mom disappeared, and the search is them searching for her. Okay, then for level 2 of alchemy, which only Estella has to do, the prompt was to read a book with the color of your birth flower, which I didn't even know that was a thing. And I'm planning to read Cinders and Sparrows by Stefan Bachmann. So I believe this is kind of a Cinderella retelling based on, the fact that it's called Cinders and Sparrows. But it's very, very loose retelling. Basically, we have our main character, Zita, who is an orphan, and she's a housemaid. And suddenly she gets a letter that tells her that now she owns this castle. And when she gets there, she realizes that her family was murdered. And she has to figure it out. So that's a middle grade book. Then lastly, for alchemy, for Estella, level 3 is an auto-buy author, and this was very hard for me because I don't really have any auto-buy authors, but I decided to go with Long Fall by Marie Brennan, because this is a short story that is basically the last in the Memoirs of Lady Trent series, and I've devoured the Memoirs of Lady Trent series, so this is an auto-buy for me. I mean, I didn't buy it. But I would have. I don't buy stuff. Okay, but you know what I mean? I'm gonna read it. We'll just say that I changed it to basically a favorite author and a series that I devoured. You know? We'll say it like that. Okay. And then we have animal studies, which only Ori has to do, but he has to do 3 levels of it. So for level 1, there is read a debut. I forgot to tell you, it's not just prompts. The classes have like cute little names and stuff. So for alchemy, level 1 is liquid sunlight, level 2 is blossom properties, and level 3 is flavor enhancing tricks. For animal studies, level 1 is hatchlings, level 2 is baby dragon care, and level 3 is elder dragon care. Fun. I mean, I'm not reading any dragon books for this. The only one I'm reading dragon books for is the Long Fall. I forgot to tell you what the Long Fall is about. Because I can't, because it's at the very, very end of a series. But I will tell you that the Memoir of Lady Trent series is historical fiction, alternate world, where our main character starts in like the 1820s, or the 1820s, and our main character, does that make sense with the timeline though? I don't know, it might start a little later, like the 1840s, but our main character, a woman, really wants to become a dragon naturalist, and she just pushes her way into the science, and like every book takes place in a different place in the world where she like explores the dragons there. And then this one is actually part of like a duology. There's a book and then there's a short story that follows her granddaughter, who is a linguist, and they are so great and I love them. Okay, now back to animal studies. The first prompt is a debut, and I decided to read Daughter of the Forest by Juliette Marillier. I read last year, I think, I read her Blackbird and, oh my god, what's it called? Her Blackthorn and Grim novels, which are also historical fantasy, and I was obsessed with them. And then this past year I read her, what's it called? She has another duology. I don't think it has a name. It starts as Wildwood Dreaming. I enjoyed it. It wasn't also historical fantasy. I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite, but I definitely, after reading Blackthorn and Grim, I definitely want to read more of her. So I decided to read Daughter of the Forest, which is her debut. It's the first in a series, and it is a retelling of the fairy tale The Six Swans, which is a fairy tale that I absolutely love. And it's another historical fiction, and like Blackthorn and Grimm, it is medieval historical fiction, which I am very hopeful for, because just because I enjoyed Blackthorn and Grimm, like I didn't dislike the Wildwood Dancing duology, I just wasn't as amazing as Blackthorn and Grimm was. Obviously, this is her debut, so, you know, it might not be as good. Probably won't be as good as Blackthorn and Grimm either. Okay, for the next book, for the next level of animal studies, for level 2, you need to read a sequel, so I'm planning to read The Search Part 2 by Jean Lewin Young. Don't have anything to say to that. It's the second part of The Search. And finally, in a similar vein, the level 3 for animal studies is last book in a series, and I'm planning to read The Search Part 3 by Jean Lewin Young. Okay. And then another one that's only for one character, we have Artificery. But for Estella, she has to learn Artificery, which is like math stuff, I guess. Which, by the way, Estella, in every incarnation of her, has had a character. She loves math stuff. Sudoku, math games, puzzles, not my thing at all. But Estella's Estella. Anyway, so this class is called The 9 Laws. She only has to learn one level of it. And the prompt was 9th book you see on social media. So I went to Tumblr. I searched for the tag bookler. And the 9th book that I saw was luckily one that was available. Otherwise, I would just planning to count every 9 books until I found one that was available to me. And that was The Diaries of Adam and Eve by Mark Twain. Now, the thing about Mark Twain is, I don't really like his writing. I know he's a classic, but I have never been able to finish a book by him. Like, I want to. His books sound good to me. Like, they're not amazing, but they sound fun. And, like, something that I would enjoy, if not love. But I do not vibe with his writing. The only book I've been able to finish by him was The Prince and the Pauper. I'm pretty sure my father read, like, half of that to me. So, who knows? And this one especially is not really my vibe. It's like it's like, what if Adam and Eve had diaries? It's just not my vibe, so there's a good chance I'll DNF it, but it's incredibly short, so that's the good thing. Okay. Next, for both of them, we have elemental studies. They both have to do one level in elemental studies. So, okay. So, the prompt for this is Stormcall. I mean, the class is Stormcall. The prompt is Water and Cover, which I knew was going to be hard. So, for Ori, I am planning to read How to Make a Wish by Ashley Herring Blake. And how perfect is that? Someone named Ashley Herring Blake for something that needs to have water on the cover. I mean, obviously, there are books that have fish on the cover that don't have water on the cover, and we are going to have one in this TBR, but like Herring and Blake, amazing. So this is a classic like lesbian book from, is it not a classic lesbian book? It sounds like a classic lesbian book from like the early 2010s. Okay, it was published in 2015. For some reason, the library site says 2024. I was like, that cannot be right. And basically, there's these two teenagers who meet each other, and our main character is Grace, who is just kind of hopeless. Her mother is very unpredictable. She doesn't really know what's going to happen next. It doesn't say much other than that. And then she meets Eva, who also has not had the best life, and they meet and as they fall in love. I hope I like it. Like, this kind of book, I feel like, is the kind of book that either I DNF, like, immediately, or I really hate it. Basically, I really hate it, or, like, I love it, or not even really hate it. I just, like, realize it's not for me at all, or, like, I love it. I'm never going to stop thinking about this, you know? And then for Estella, I'm planning to read Something's Fishy by Nancy Krulik. And this does have fish on the cover. It has an aquarium on the cover, and oh my god. And there are fish in there, and there's also water in there, obviously. This is part of the Katie Kazoo series, which basically is an early chapter book series, which follows our main character, Katie Carew, whose nickname is Katie Kazoo, and it's Katie Kazoo Switcheroo series, actually, and she makes a wish in the very first book that she wishes she has a horrible day. She wishes she could be anybody but her, and it comes true. Sometimes in every book a magic wind comes and turns her into somebody else. I don't know anything other than that about the book. These are very fun books. That's all. Okay. My legs are really starting to hurt. I do not know why. Just like, okay. Then the next one I have is Inscription, which is only for Stella, but she needs 2 levels of this. So the 2 classes she has to take for Inscription are Magic of Primes and Archiving. Magic of Primes. Again, not for me. But luckily I do not have to take it, and luckily I do have to take Statistics. Anyways. So for Magic Primes, level 1, the prompt is prime number of letters in the title, and a prime number is a number that can only be divided by 1 and itself. Can numbers be divided by themselves? I assume they can. I don't know. But it just can't be divided by a number that's not 1 or itself. So I'm planning to read What If 2 by Randall Monroe. It's been ages. It's been like 10 years. 9 years since I read the first book. So basically, Randall Monroe puts out these comics called the XKCD comics. I don't know what his actual job is. I'm sure he worked in some sort of science. I think maybe geology, something like that, or engineering. Let me check. I will check in a second. But basically, that What If books are all these questions that people, and the XKCD comics are just like little silly comics about science, but the What If books are like silly questions, scientific questions that people send him and he like takes seriously, and they're really fun. Yes, Randall Monroe was an engineer. Okay, the second book for level 2 that I'm planning to read for Inscription, the prompt is Vertical Spine Title, which can cover a lot of books, but I'm planning to read Hour's Flight by Mercedes Laquet. This is a reread for me. I first read this book in 8th grade, and this is the second book in a trilogy, and it follows this girl, Talia, who in the first book, she becomes a herald, which are kind of like magic judges. Well, they themselves are not magic, but they have magic courses. And I'm not really going to say any more than that, because I don't know how to explain this series, and it's a very famous series. It's like classic fantasy series. Okay. Then I have for Estella, again, spells and incantations, and again, she needs to take 2 classes. So her 2 classes that she needs to take are, the first one is Charm Luck, and second is Current Spell Trends. Ooh, she's not gonna like that one. Probably. It might be interesting for her. Why am I telling you? Like, she's not a real person, you know? But the prompt for level 1 is roll a 6-sided die and read a book and page bracket. Like, 1 would be 100 to 199. So I roll a 3, which is 300 to 399. And the book I chose was Unseen Magic by Emily Lloyd Jones. This is a middle grade book, and it is 300 something pages, obviously. And it follows this girl. Well, I'm not sure if she moves to the town or if she already lives there, but it's a town with magic, and the magic starts fading, and she decides she needs to fix it. Find out what's making the magic fade. Make it stop before all the magic fades. The second prompt was released this year. Not really my kind of thing. I don't really read books that were released this year, but this is a fish book I mentioned, which is called Don't Trust Fish by Neil Sharpson, and it's illustrated by Don Sontact. It's a picture book. There is a teacher tuber / booktuber that I watched, Colby Sharp, who really, really loved this book. He said it was really funny, and his 5th grade students loved it. So, it's a picture book. I could read it. And it was released this year. I literally, to find for this book, I literally just typed into Google picture books released in the past year. That came up. I looked through a bunch of them. Remember that Colby Sharp really liked that book and put it on the TBR. And obviously checked that the library had it. And then put it on the TBR. But yeah. Okay, so last class is for both of them, which is Restoration. Aubrey has to do the first 2 levels, and Estella has to do 3 levels. I got mixed up. It was because one of the names of the titles is really long, so it ended up being 2 lines, and then it looks like 4 books written there. I was very confused because there's not such a thing as 4 levels. But let's start. So Restoration, the classes are Unbroken Focus Tincture, Continental Remedies, and Magical Rehabilitation 101, which is kind of funny for a 101 class when they're in their last semester. But, so Aubrey has to do 2 levels, I said, and Estella's 3. So the first level is Single Point of View. So for Aubrey, I chose Bigger Than a Bread Box by Laurel Snyder, which is another middle grade, and it's about a girl who she's having a hard time. I don't remember if it's her parents divorced and she moved, or she just moved. Something happened in her family, and they moved, I believe. And she's looking in the attic of this new house, and she finds a bread box. And she makes a wish, and it comes true. And she discovers that when she makes wishes in the bread box, they can come true. I don't know, it sounds cute, and also the cover is just so beautiful. The cover is beautiful. Then for Estella, I chose Cart and Quitter by Diana Wynne Jones. I love Diana Wynne Jones. She's one of my favorite authors. I suppose I could have put her on an auto buy, but she's still not an auto. She's an auto buy for me, so I could have put her on an auto buy. But I've long fall there instead, and I love Marie Brennan. So she's Marie Brennan, I do feel she's another author that for me will be unless her book doesn't sound good to me, I'm not suspicious of it. When I say auto-buy author, I mean a favorite. I say my books. That's the problem. I generally the majority 90% of the books I read I took out from the library, and the others are either I bought them at the secondhand store for 5 shekel, or I picked them up from a bus stop where someone left them. So I struggle with the concept of auto-buy. Anyways, back to Cart and Quitter. This is, I believe it's a historical fantasy. And let's see what it's about, really. Okay, so it's not historical, it's a secondary world fantasy. And we are following our main character, Morel. It's the first in a quartet, and who is part of a family of traveling musicians. And this musical instrument he discovers that it has magic and he needs to stop a war with it. Very unclear. I could not find a clear summary anywhere. But I love Diana Wynne Jones. And I really there's only one book of hers I've DNF'd, and all the others, if I haven't loved, I've really liked. My only problem is that I started reading her books in Hebrew for the majority, and I actually prefer the Hebrew translation than the way she writes in English. Okay, then the second prompt for restoration was randomize 5 countries using a random country generator, and then choose one of them and read a book by an author from that country. So I guess I will put up here Ori's first, and it will be there because I screen recorded it. And I, in the end, chose Finland, and because they have picture books that are available at the library. And I decided to read Goodnight, Mr. Clutterbuck by Maori Kunas, which is, a silly animal book, which are always fun. And then for Stella, I will also put here the screen recording. And I chose Iceland because that was the only one that had authors available in the library. And I decided to read Stranded, a mostly true story from Iceland by Everthor Benedictson and illustrated by Anne Wilson. I didn't actually see what it's about. I just thought it looked fun, and it was available. Okay, I'll just read to you. I think it's Aver, not Ever. Avar, not Ever. But I'll just read to you the good rate summary. Based on a true story, the author humorously recounts the time his grandfather got stranded with a friend at Surtsey, a brand new volcanic island in Iceland. The adventurers face epic challenges like molten lava, melted eyeglasses, and scant supplies before finally getting rescued. Graphic novel-like layouts and spiritual texts invite readers to search for the one thing that's not actually true in this thrilling yet lighthearted tale of adventure. Which is a point I don't like. The rest sounds really good, but I don't like that. And then back to stuff I do like. Endnotes include information about volcanoes, Icelandic culture, and Norse mythology. I hate it when they put non-true things, like, on to make it fun. Like, obviously, historical fiction is going to have non-true things, and I read a lot of historical fiction as a kid, and historical fiction aimed at kids, they often have, like, at the end, this was not really real and I changed it so it could fit my story and all that. So I'm used to that, but I hate it when they, like, put, like, non-true things like, this is a fun scavenger hunt. It's not fun for me. Like, I understand why it is fun for a lot of kids, but it was never fun for me. Like, this magazine I used to get had that in one issue when I was a kid, and I was so mad. Like, I was fuming, and especially because we had to wait for the next issue to find out which one wasn't true. And then I finally got it. I was like, I was right. I knew I had figured out which one wasn't true the month before, and I read it on Shabbos also, so I didn't even have, like, the internet. I found it out alone, and instead of being proud and happy that I found it out correctly, I was, like, fuming, like, how dare you do that? How dare you put in something that's not true and then make us wait a month? Okay, so for the last book on this TBR, it is Level 3 Restoration, which is only for Stella, which was Give an Author a Second Chance. And the author I decided to give a second chance to was Anna Marie McLemore. I read, which book of theirs did I read? Okay, the book of theirs I DNF'd was When the Moon Was Ours. I have read a bunch of short stories for them just because they've written a lot of anthologies I've read. I don't particularly remember, like, hating them, but, you know, it's anthologies. I don't really remember most of the stories. But I did not like When the Moon Was Ours. So, but they were very popular on Tumblr when I was a teenager, so I did add a bunch of their books to my TBR. So the one I'm planning to try and read is Dark and Deepest Red, mainly because I believe it is a fairy tale retelling of Red Riding Hood. So, and I love fairy tale retellings. That used to be my favorite genre for years and years before, like, very recently, historical fantasy usurped it. So I'm hoping that because it's a fairy tale retelling, I am more likely to enjoy it. I'm very nervous about this. I really did not like When the Moon Was Ours at all. Like, it just was not for me in any way. Okay, so those are all the books on my TBR for the Medical Readathon Autumn Equinox of 2025. Thank you for watching.